Come on, Soda Pop, let's go.
Bruce Danielson, Sioux Falls. I've been researching on sire quite a bit this past week trying to finish this personal project. And thanks to Lori Hogstead, I've been able to do some sire research for this meeting. As a side note, I've tried to view old meeting videos, and this is what I've been getting on several different computers. If you notice, it's not surprising to me the videos do not run from ending to beginning as long as they show upside down and reversed. It's a little hard to understand what's going on when it looks like this, but anyway, I'm here tonight to talk about I.L. Wiedermann. I met I.L. Wiedermann almost 3 years ago, but had known him since he first took on the City Hall in 2006 and won. Never dreaming I would be in a place where I would need to know him, I just admired him from afar. The City Council and the administration of Sioux Falls have become well acquainted with him through his 29 City Council public input presentations and phone calls, since the traffic camera company decided to go after his van. Today, millions of Americans are benefiting from his principled traffic light case as it is cited to force camera shutoffs all over the nation. When the city decided to put me on its target a few years ago, I decided it was time to meet Dan Daly, Teresa Staley, and Scott Erisman. Through them, I met I.L. These four are some of the best citizens Sioux Falls could ever ask for. I will be forever grateful for the talks we've had, but I.L. remained our man of mystery. I.L. kept to himself. Only in death were we able to find out his full name, military service, family, growing up, plus his wide circle of friends and acquaintances. He had several circles, and none knew the other. He gave all he had to whatever cause he latched onto. He was a very bright man who saw through bluster. He spoke for the person who could not speak. As many of you know, he would call anyone to ask anything, and then show up to tell everybody what he had learned. Never eloquent, but always all in. Since last Thursday, I've taken the 29 public inputs and tried to view them. What an education. It appears his adherence to Robert's Rules of Order made him our gavel club champion with at least 3 times, including his last visit with me on June 9th. I.L. was principled, caring, thoughtful, generous, and will be missed. He was a big guy with rough edges surrounded a big, soft heart. I.L.'s service will be at Miller Funeral Home downtown at 5:30 on Sunday, September 20th, and all are invited. And we'd like to see you there. Thank you.
Mr. Danielson, thank you. Folks, did anybody else want to engage the council? Very good.
Robert Colby, Mr. Mayor, Council. I read with interest the recent interview that the mayor had done with that appeared nationally, and found it very interesting, and then had to hearken back to some of the history. And I think many of the mayors that we had prior to Mayor Heather probably would have said about the same thing in a similar fashion, in that the city of Sioux Falls has always been a very progressive entity, not only because of the mayor or the council or however the governmental entity was, going back even toward Mike Shermer. Sometimes mistakes were made, and one of those would have been the urban renewal of the early 70s. But that aside, we have still grown, and it's been a combination of business and government working together with the citizens watching over and kind of trying to make sure that the course stays between the fence lines, and most often between the curbs on the roadway. I did find interesting when the mayor said that this was a strong mayor form of government, but I would add a couple extra words. Strong mayor with or by consent, because the mayor has the obligations that he or she may do, but the council still can exercise a tremendous amount of input on what happens in city government. The best illustrations are watching the Republicans in the U.S. House and Senate, or watching Democrats in Texas who decided that they were going to absent themselves from a vote in the State House. Now, the council, if it unifies itself, it is under no obligation to show up or to vote on anything that comes before them, and they have by Robert's Rules of Order, they can table anything, and they can table it ad infinitum if they so choose. But I will give the mayor kudos on working to say something about the need to work with county government. Back in the day when the county commission and the city council used to get together for their monthly coffee and rolls or donuts or whatever, we never could get the mayor to come to one of the meetings. So the county commission said, okay, let's have the chair of the county commission and the mayor get together and, compare notes, because there are things that the county commission would like to appraise the mayor of, and vice versa. We didn't always get the best cooperation. There were some mayors that the only way you ever found out what they were doing was by virtue of a news release that they would issue. And sometimes that was exasperating. Other mayors, sometimes it was hard to keep on track because they would sooner talk about the basketball game or the football game, etc., but rather than about the business that the city council might have the mayor bring to the county commission chair, or the county commission bring from the rest of the county commissioners. The county is constitutional, and therefore they get a lot of the flack that they get because things are stacked upon them by the legislature. The city council has although it's chartered, it has the opportunity to do things more by choice than by mandate. And that is always one of the problems, because as the county commission keeps working to try to become more efficient, they get more things to do, and they aren't always funded. In fact, many times funds have been taken away from them. Earlier, when you talked about the disability community here in Sioux Falls, in the days past, we were given the opportunity on the county commission and maybe the city council to participate in a particular disability for a day. And even for a day, if you did such, you learned a lot about that part of the community that has to deal with their trials and tribulations 365 days a year. And I would advise, if possible, that you see if you could take and walk as a blind person for a period of time, or that you might confine yourself to a wheelchair for a day. It does give an enlightening experience. When you talked about the mental health issues, having had relationship with those in my family, it's good to observe it for a week and be appraised of it. But those people who suffer from mental health issues aren't the only people that suffer. The rest of us that are close to those people, we also have to deal with that 365 days a year. Maybe not as intense and on an intense day-by-day basis, but at least on a weekly basis. So I would suggest that if you have the opportunity, listen to somebody who has a family member who has that sort of malady, because it can be enlightening. Thank you very much.
Ms. Colby, thank you.
Come on, Soda Pop, let's go. Come on, let's go. Come on.